the dangers that they were continuous venture.
I know a guy.
I think that part is part of the reason the swale.
Exactly. But if you're
All right, guys. So we're here over at the Vietnam War Memorial, and the names all along this wall. These are the names of the men and women who gave their lives. This is one of the conflicts in U.S. history that I probably know the least about. Um, Occurs in the late 60s, on into the early 70s. So not that long ago.
we'll watch Forrest Gump.
Yeah. We'll watch the movie Forrest Gump. I mean, that's sort of a more humorous portrayal, and it talks about it. But this is a war I definitely encourage you to check out. Possibly it's the war that people sort of compare. It might be considered one of the more modern wars, right? Like the way war is fought here. Um, Probably more related to the types of conflicts we're getting into now in our country. So when people complain about the war in Iraq or even the wider war on terror, um, people who are against these types of conflicts, they often point to Vietnam and the amount of people that died. I'm not going to tell you too much about it, but I would also encourage you to think about when you study the Vietnam War, find out who designed the memorial. I think the story behind the person who came up with this idea is a powerful one. As you notice, we're walking and the wall's getting bigger, and the wall actually has years, right? So this is all the men and women who died before we even got to 1959. So I think that's a powerful statement too. Um, and I mean, and so I think we've talked a lot about rights, the concept of rights, and all these things. Your liberties, right? Life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. These are bought and paid for by people who are risking their lives to make sure like you can express yourself and enjoy these rights here at home. And so I think the big push here is, we talk a lot in our class about leadership and the type of person you want to be. It's one of my hopes that many of you go on to be the stakeholders, the people that are in power in our country. And one of those things might be several of you will be in the military, and or you guys will be making the decisions regarding our future conflicts, right? I think it's always good to sort of stay grounded and realize that, we've talked a lot about the actions of countries and power games and stuff like that. There's a cost, there's consequences with it. Um, I'm hoping that through sort of this education that you guys are receiving, one of you as president, you'll have more knowledge as far as like, should we get in conflicts? What types of conflicts should we get in? How are we going to fight those conflicts? Because these are some of the consequences you see here.
One thing to point out is the diversity in the people who died. Like all backgrounds, all races and ethnicities were all represented in this war.
I think that's a really strong point too.
You guys help a homeless Vietnam veteran get something to eat today.
I don't have any cash, man. I'm sorry.
As you guys can see, a lot of these monuments sort of stand in the shadow of the Washington Monument. You also just saw, I think, something that I often struggle with. Our country has a very deep issue with homelessness, and most notably our homeless veterans. And I think something that Cynthia and I've struggled with at times is, what do we do about that? Do we give our money to shelters? That's sort of what you're sort of told to do, or do you actually like give cash to someone who needs it? I typically don't carry cash, but I think that's been a hard thing here in the nation's capital. Every night I've gone out, I've seen homeless people. In a country as powerful as ours, I mean, you see the wealth, you see the amazingness, but you also see the poverty. And I think this is why we learn what we learn, right? Like if you're watching this video, you're learning anything here, but you're not thinking about, okay, what are you gonna do to sort of change that, right? So we just sort of saw all the names of the men and women who gave their lives. But what about the men and women who didn't necessarily give their life, but they sort of did give their life, right? Because when they come back, the life that they're living is not the one that they planned for them. And do we remember them? That's an older gentleman. Does he matter to us now because his name is not on the wall? These are these are good questions. You know, we've talked about, you know, our country's finances just a little bit, and we're going to sort of have that debate: high taxes, low taxes, lots of government services, few government services. This is a debate that you're going to sort of have as far as what type of country you want to live in. So tough questions, but I definitely think you guys are ready to kind of handle these topics. So, but anyway, Mr. Houghton really does need to go catch his flight. So